Mapping the cities of your world is a time-consuming and patience-demanding task, one that requires discipline and no small amount of time applied to it. Where do the city walls go? Where are the gates? Where are the barracks and the castles and the palaces? Where are the inns and the stores and the market stalls and the arenas? And doing all of that in any detail for a city map can take hours, even for a city that your players are going to only visit once or twice over the course of the campaign. They're going to go in, they're going to see what the attractions are, they're going to leave. So many of us will deliberately do without a city map if we're not going to visit it. But what if that didn't have to be the case? What if there was a method of mapping cities for your campaign that only took 5 minutes per city? And what if you could then use those maps less as a dedicated tool and more as the opportunity to improvise based on a template that you know is going to be consistent if you visited it in 2 sessions or 3 sessions or 20 sessions in the future? Hello adventurers, and welcome back to the Red Quills. My name is Ryan, and today is day 27 of our November map making challenge. We are so far through this month. We are 90% of the way there, and I am only kind of running out of puff. And we are definitely going to finish this series on a few strong notes. And today's strong note is the pinnacle of our really quick maps series, how to really quickly map a city. What I am going to do today is map out 20 of the 24 city-states of my continent in under an hour and a half. So the purpose that I'm taking this challenge is honestly, it is yes, because this is a handy tool for you to have, and yes, because it is, great for the technical understanding of what we're doing, creating maps and creating worlds, and it is going to be so helpful for you if you are creating an atlas of your world, or if you just want to improvise a city, or if you haven't had the opportunity to sit down and do a lot of notes. If you don't like notes, this is your opportunity to pick this up and take it with you and carry on and figure out what you're doing. And it's also because we are at day 27 of the Map Member Challenge, and all of my attention has been really kind of going into making the videos and editing them and, writing the scripts and doing the marketing stuff, and not so much into the actual making of the world, which is bad because it's my challenge as much as everyone else's. So of the 24 city-states, I have maps of 4. So I really need to make 20 maps of 20 cities. And I thought, you know what, while I'm here and figuring out this problem, you guys can all tag along and figure it out with me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with an A3 sheet of watercolor paper, and I'm going to grab out a few thicknesses of Fineliner pen, and then I'm going to divide that piece of paper into 20, and we're going to make 20 city maps. So strap yourself in and let's see how we go. These are the tools that I'm working with today. I have a sheet of A3 paper. It is, as I mentioned, watercolor paper, cold press, and it's good paper, but honestly, you can use any paper that comes most easily to hand. I've used a fairly large sheet because I'm doing 20 cities, but it really is entirely up to you on what size you use. I would recommend going quite small for the city maps that you're using. I would say these are about 2.5 by 3 inches each. They're just enough to give us an overview of the city, an understanding of where things are and what the terrain is like, and give us an imprint so that we can improvise from there. And then onto the pens that we're using. You need at least 4 pens for this method. If you can come up with your own, even better, but the different colors and thicknesses are very important so that you can get an understanding of what the city looks like at a glance. So these are the pens that I am using. I have a 1.0 millimeter black Fineliner pen. It is a UniPin. The materials that I'm using are in the description below if you want to check that out. It is a medium point Fineliner. So that's going to be used for our city walls. We have a finer one, 0.2, 1/5 of the size, that we're going to be using for the gates and the roads and the bridges. We are going to be using 2 colored Fineliners. These are both 0.4s, they're both Artliners. We've got a dark red and a blue that we're working with here. Red is going to be used for our symbols, the blue is going to be used for the water. And between the different thicknesses and the different colors, you can very easily at a glance get an understanding of what the layout of the city is going to look like, what the terrain is, and where you can find specific things. So having gone through what we're using to create this map, let's talk a little bit about the method. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start out by showing you an example of one. Let's begin with the city of Uridian Grand, which is one to the northeast of the continent that I have of Anakos, and I wanted to give a snapshot not only of what its geography was like, but also a little bit of its history. When you talk about creating a city map, as I have done in this whole playlist that I've compiled, if you're creating your own in more detail, you can tell a lot about the history of a city by the way that its roads are laid out, by the location of its, castles and watchtowers, how it's, repaired itself after ruin, or whether it's got walls or not. All of these details kind of add themselves to a tapestry of the city's history. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give as much detail as I can in implication and not in writing. So Uridian Grand is a trading city, and I'm going to put it on a river with an island in the center. The island is significant because islands are extremely easy to defend. And so what we're going to do then is have the old cities, one on the island in the center, which is the oldest part of the city, and a citadel, which is off onto the eastern bank. Note that this map is south facing. And so then once I've got an understanding of what the river and the walls look like, and that again is just going to give me a kind of an overview of the city. It's a guideline that I can work with. I'm going to get out the red pen. I'm going to do the symbols. The symbols will tell us what we're going to find where, and we're going to go into a more detailed breakdown of them in a second. They're categorized into major symbols and minor symbols. And as we go through and after we've placed them, we've got an idea of where they are. They will tell us where the roads are as well. Now you can really do the roads or the symbols, but I found for giving the city a feeling of being a little bit more organic, a little bit more random than planned out, it was good to do the symbols first and then the roads, because the roads can give a much more orderly feeling if they're not kind of wiggling around and trying to get out of the way of things. So if you want your city to feel older, a little bit less planned, do the symbols first and then the roads. And then once that's finished, you've got a sketch that took me, I think this was 5 minutes and 37 seconds from start to finish. And this was my first one, by the way. I got quicker as I went on. And it gives us an understanding of what the city looks like. There aren't any labels. There don't need to be any labels at this point. If your players are coming in and they're exploring the city, all you need is a snapshot of what it looks like and an understanding of its history, and you can improvise from there. And by the way, like and subscribe to this video if you're finding it useful. Comment below to help the algorithm, and hype this video as well to make sure that it can reach even more people than it normally does. I know that these videos help out a lot of people. That's all we're really trying to do here, and the further it gets and the more people see it, the more people we will be able to help. So let's talk about the symbols that I'm using. This is the heart of doing these really quick maps in this way. It is a method of denoting things on a map like this that you can do very quickly and that you can read very quickly, and that implies a lot for you. The more implication you can stick in the symbols, the better. And so I've really pared it back for these maps. I've only got 4 variations of symbols, 1 major and 1 minor for each. And that's enough to kind of give me an understanding of what the city is like and imply a lot about its history. So let's go through them. I've got our circles. The large circles are our palaces, our courts, our, large judicial buildings that are the center of the governance of the city and its surrounds, but aren't necessarily defensive. We're talking, big civil buildings, like a palace in most cases here. The small dots are for, gathering places, town halls, other religious buildings if necessary. And they kind of give us an idea of where the communities gather in each of the individual neighborhoods. The second kind of symbol is the military ones. These are the crosses. A large cross denotes an enormous castle or a bastion or a fortress. A small cross will tell us where the guardhouses or the watchtowers are, these small outposts on the edge of the city that are still manned. So when an emergency takes place, when a crime is being committed, where do reinforcements come from? You got the central one, which is large, and the outskirts, which are small. The next are the entertainment areas, the recreation areas. The large inverted triangles are for arenas, for stadiums, for coliseums, for circus maximus. And those are where, entertainment is held. The circuses, the games, the competitions, the large scale, plays or theatrical endeavors or gardens will be held in those locations. Recreational areas. And then on the smaller scales, those are the institutions that are for recreation on a smaller scale. Generally speaking, those will be inns and taverns, both of which are very important, but you could add other things under these particular guises. Any location that people go to relax or rest. The last one is the archways, and we've got two variations here, one of which is what we'll call the agora, the large central marketplace or the market district of any given city. And that's significant. In some cities, I've got several because they are massive trading hubs for the lands around them, or the different marketplaces specialize in different things, which you can tell by their locations. For instance, an agora that is next to the coastline will deal in imported, exotic, or nautical goods like fish or seafood, whereas something that is, further inland or on the outskirts of the city will deal with livestock, meats, and farmed vegetables. Those are the large archways, and then the small ones are stores. And again, this can be any kind of vendor, and it doesn't really matter. You don't need to label these guys for individual, crafts, because what we're doing here is we aren't really building out an exhaustive map of the city. We don't have time to do that. What we're doing is creating you a prompt. If your players come up to you and they say, we need to visit a cobbler because I have these magic shoes and I need to get them repaired, you can be like, cool, there is a cobbler. That makes sense to have one over near the, the large livestock agora. There's a little shoemaker there. He deals in the leather that comes off the cows that are sold. Nice and easy. We can do that. And between these 4 different categories and the 2 variations of each one, we have an understanding of practically everything of note that you can find in a city that your players will need. And there are options to add even more to them if you really want to. I just didn't, because these 4 are the only ones you really need, and it's much faster to only work in 4. But you could add up to 8. The reason that I chose these 4 is because they divide more or less into the different kinds of challenge that you might encounter within a dungeon. For instance, the palaces or the town hall will give you political intrigue, which is a puzzle. The castles and the watchtowers will give you the opportunity for combat. The marketplaces or the stores will give you the opportunity to do a little bit of role play. And the arenas or the places of entertainment will give you the option of having competitions or traps or gauntlets or skill checks of that kind, and they fulfill the trap function. So between the 4 of those, we have, broadly speaking, most of the challenges that a player will want to face. But the others that also exist for the exploration of the history of a city can be found as well. And you can expand those categories out as well. We're just creating a key that is very easy to replicate and very quick to replicate. And as we go through, I'm going to do more and more and more and more. And each of these gives us an understanding of a city, whether that city is militaristic, whether that city is the focus of a religion, whether it is open to trade, whether it is nautical, whether it is, something with a rich nightlife and a heavily spiced cuisine. You can imply so much from the geography of a city that is the backbone of what we're using here. And in order to shape the geography of a city, you don't need anything more than 5 minutes. So that is my secret to creating a 5-minute map. And it was very, very quick, and I have done 20 of them now. So what do you think of this particular challenge? What kind of symbols would you add? And I cannot wait to see whether or not this trick actually helps those who are following through with the Map Vember challenge, whether you're creating your cities from scratch only now while you're trying to finish off the challenge, or you're trying to, cram things in, or whether you've prepared as you've gone through and you've got heaps of city maps that you can flesh out. This is a tool to kind of help you add more detail to the world over the next few days as we're finishing up the challenge. These are the 20 major city-states of Anarchos. Let me know what you think. So like and subscribe to this video, comment below, hype this video if you've been enjoying it, and I'm going to give you the prompt for tomorrow. Now tomorrow is day 28 of our challenge, and what I want to work on is something a little bit more creative. Again, we're getting to the end of the challenge here. I'm trying to give myself a little bit of a boost, a little bit of interest, a little bit of excitement, and so I'm going to do something that's not a normal map. What I'm going to do is I'm going to design a series of fantasy map tattoos. And the idea behind this is if you have a quest in which your players are looking for something, if they're trying to find a prophecy or a lost enchanted island or the sleeping god or something like that, and they come across an old sage or a pirate or someone who has a fragment of a map or an understanding of a prophecy tattooed upon their flesh, how is that going to elevate the coolness of your campaign if you can show them what this tattoo looks like? And more than that, how do you interpret a map in that kind of metaphorical style. How do we map things in a way that doesn't necessarily look like a map as we would normally understand it? So I'm going to be designing those tattoos tomorrow. Please design your own. I would be so keen to see what you have, and I will of course be sharing them with you on tomorrow, day 28 of this November map making challenge. But until then, happy mapping, and I'll see you then. Mapping the cities of your world is a time-consuming. Mapping the cities of your world is a time-consuming and... I've forgotten the word. I've forgotten the word, guys. All right. Mapping the cities of your world is a time-consuming and patience-demanding